All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session today. My name is Chris, and I'm an education coordinator at the Alzheimer's Society of Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland, and Haliburton. And during our time together today, we're going to be focusing on what it is that we can do or put in place to prepare for the event that the person living with dementia who you support might go missing. And I recognize that during our discussion today, there might be several questions that come up. Just in the interest of time, and because I'm not always able to see the chat box while I'm sharing my PowerPoint, I just ask you to hold your questions till the end of the presentation. Please feel free to go ahead and jot a question down in the chat so that you don't forget to ask. And I will be sure to go through any questions that are in the chat at the end of the presentation. And I thank you in advance for your help with this. So dementia changes a person's abilities to carry out their daily activities and increases risk when it comes to going missing. People living with dementia can become lost even in familiar environments, like when they're out going for a walk and even on their own street. Changes in the person's brain can lead to moments of disorientation and confusion. Landmarks that should be recognizable might not be, and the person can be left wondering where they are, and they might not know how to return home. It can be difficult to think about the person we support becoming more vulnerable to the risk of going missing. But we're here today to talk about that possibility fairly openly so that we can do the things that we need to do to help to mitigate that risk. The Alzheimer's Society of Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland, and Haliburton respectfully recognizes that our organization is located on the treaty and ancestral territory of the Michi-Saagiig Anishinaabe people, who were known as peacemakers among Indigenous nations, and we're grateful to the original stewards of this land. It's our goal for this land acknowledgement to be an active, living statement of intent, which will build a bridge toward greater understanding and inclusion. This is the start of a conversation, and we intend to listen and learn. So you might be thinking, why are we here today? And it really boils down to wanting the person with dementia in our lives to maintain their independence while still staying safe. When thinking about this, one care partner shared, "My mom is living with dementia. She has her good days and her bad days. To almost everyone, she looks normal, but she has trouble with her memory. Staying active is important to her. Getting out of the house keeps her healthy, and it's something I encourage. I want to keep my mom safe, but I don't want to take away her freedom." Our focus in this session is to learn the various ways that we can support someone who's living with dementia to remain active and maintain the ability to navigate their communities independently. There are some different safety nets that we can put in place. Additionally, there are things that we can prepare in the event that the person does go missing, including some documentation that we might hand to first responders to help them to be able to locate the person quickly. I'm going to share some statistics with you now that do reflect some stark realities, but they highlight the reasons why being prepared is essential. Becoming lost isn't just distressing, it can be really dangerous. One startling statistic is that 60%, so more than half of individuals who live with dementia, will go missing at some point. There's a great risk for those that are missing for more than 24 hours. Statistically speaking, half of that group will end up either seriously injured or even possibly losing their lives. A person living with dementia can become lost because in the moment, their brain can't identify the wayfinding markers needed to put them in place. So they can become very disoriented. And even if the person has not gotten lost before, or they've never left their care partner unexpectedly in the past, it doesn't mean that it won't happen. A person living with dementia can go missing at any time and possibly much earlier than expected. So being proactive rather than reactive is an important step in order to keep somebody safe. So let's take a look now at the effects of dementia. So as nerve cells in our brain or in the person's brain become damaged and the disease progresses, the person's going to experience different changes in their cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and physical abilities. And each person is affected differently. It's difficult to predict what symptoms each person is going to have, the order in which those symptoms are going to appear, or the speed of that progression. So when we think of cognitive abilities, this means that the person's abilities to understand, think, remember, and communicate could be affected. So the person might not be able to do simple tasks, things that were very easy for them in the past. They might have trouble remembering other people's names. They might have trouble remembering where they were headed, where they were going, or what they were about to do. And they may have trouble with language. They may have trouble understanding what's being said to them. And they may also have trouble getting words out and making themselves understood. Then we have in the second bubble here, responsive behaviors. So due to changes in the brain, a person with dementia may have increasing difficulty communicating in a verbal way. So then they might instead use actions and gestures to communicate what it is that they're feeling or how they might be responding to their current environment. So that's why we have the term responsive behaviors. It's all about how the person is using their behavior in response to something that's affecting them. Changes in cognitive abilities and mood may cause the person with dementia to experience these responsive behaviors. And examples of responsive behaviors include things like pacing, agitation, repetitive actions, maybe hiding things, or maybe searching for things, or having an emotional outburst at times that we would consider kind of inappropriate or maybe not socially acceptable or strange in relation to what's happening to the person in their environment. We can't figure out why they're responding emotionally in the way they are. Next, we have spatial perception. So we might not always think of these things as related to dementia, but somebody with dementia might have trouble judging the environment around them. So they might have difficulty or challenges navigating things like stairs because their world can start to feel or seem a little flat, and they might have trouble seeing in 3 dimension. So they're having trouble judging the distance between one stair to the next because they're not able to see that change. They might try also to walk around a black tile on the floor or a black rug on the floor because to them, the way they're perceiving it, it looks like a hole. So you might notice them skirting around or avoiding stepping on that space. Next, the person might have changes to their physical abilities. So their coordination might be affected, their balance might be affected, and really just their overall ability to move about, or their ability to execute specific actions. So it's like what their brain is telling their body part to do might not always work the way it once did. And lastly, emotions and moods. So the person with dementia might have difficulty controlling their emotions and moods. They may appear sad one moment and then very angry the next. They might laugh at inappropriate times, or we might notice them worrying a great deal over things that we would perceive to be fairly small. They may become suspicious of people around them, even their close family members and other people that support them. And this is a normal change for the person living with dementia. We might notice that their emotions and their moods are varying and they're changing rapidly. And they're going from calm to tears to anger in quick succession. And their mood changes might be difficult for us to predict. So these are the different common effects of dementia. But it's important for us to remember that at the root of each of these outward symptoms is a result of an internal physical change that's happening within the person's brain. And many of the common symptoms of dementia, like memory loss or disorientation in time and space, can leave that person more susceptible to going missing. We can see how those things are related. So, why does going missing happen? Why is this something that is common? The term wandering is commonly used to describe behavior like walking or pacing or searching that leads somebody to go missing. But this wording really isn't all that accurate. Most people living with dementia, they do go missing with a purpose or a place in mind. So they're not wandering aimlessly. And there's different reasons why someone living with dementia might lose their way or go missing, and we'll look at some of these now. At the top of the list, we have restlessness. So maybe the person is just needing a change of scenery or environment, or their body's telling them that they need to get up and move. So that can cause the person living with dementia to be restless and to look for a different environment or a different space to be in. Second, trying to continue a habit or interest. So, for example, if a man drove every day to the same office for 40 years, due to the effects of dementia, he might not realize that now he's retired and he'll still get into his vehicle and he'll still make that drive to the office. And then he'll get lost along the way. Something will happen where he becomes disoriented and doesn't make it there. Third, relieving boredom. So just like you or I, people living with dementia do need to feel that sense of purpose. And if they're bored, it can cause restlessness. So one way that we can prevent this is to be sure that we're keeping the person active and engaged, as that can help to relieve that boredom. Searching for the past. So sometimes we describe a person with dementia's behavior as acting like a time traveler, because they're going from the present time to years long before. They might be searching for their childhood home. They might be searching for a friend or maybe even for parents who have since passed away. Then we have responding to anxiety. So people living with dementia often live with anxiety, and it can be severe enough to cause responsive behaviors. The person's senses are heightened. So things like loud noises or repetitive noises or too much color or too much stimulation in the room might encourage the person or make the person want to leave their present environment. And then we have lack of physical activity. So just like everyone, people living with dementia need to get their bodies moving. They need to get their energy out. And they like to have exercise and fresh air, just like all of us. So they may leave their home or their place of residence simply just to get outside and get some of that physical exercise. And lastly, on our list, we have confusion of time. So the person might believe that they're late for a visit with their friends. So they may leave their house to go looking for those friends or go meet them, when in fact that visit happened weeks ago or even longer than that. So confusion in time from hours to days to months and even years can occur for the person living with dementia. And this isn't an endless list. There might be other reasons which would cause the person living with dementia to go missing, but these are some of the most common ones. So symptoms of dementia, as we can kind of see here, they really compound the danger of getting lost. And there's a few reasons for this. So, for one, the person might not ask for help because they don't realize that they're lost. They don't realize that they need assistance. They may not be able to problem solve and they may not be able to help themselves. So they might not be able to landmark themselves. They might not be able to read things like street signs or navigate their environment using traffic lights. So that can add to the issues. The person might deny being lost. And that could be due to a lack of understanding. They might not realize that they're lost, but it could also be due to embarrassment. They might be fearful and they may hide from people who are looking for them, even. So, because they might be experiencing symptoms like suspicion or paranoia related to their dementia, it's possible that the person might be afraid of those who are looking for them. So, specifically, if you think of a first responder, maybe in uniform, that might cause the person to feel anxious or paranoid, and it might lead them to not respond, even if their name is being called. And lastly, people with dementia, they'll often walk in a straight line, even if the terrain isn't safe. So we might notice that they're walking into forested areas, or they're walking across ditches or onto busy highways. So these are the common behaviors that we see when somebody's lost. Um, And we also have some patterns that have been identified when it comes to the common places where the person might be found. So in natural areas, this is a common place. So wooded areas are common spaces for people living with dementia to lose their way. And the person, once they're in that wooded area, they might not stick to a marked trail and they'll often continue just to walk deeper into the forest. It won't occur to them to stop and turn around. And they generally walk, as we say, as the crow flies. So just in a straight line, not really veering off their course. And they'll only stop when they come to a very impassable barrier. So often in a water barrier, like in a pond, or in a really thick brush where they can't pass through. In urban areas, people living with dementia are often found in abandoned structures and secluded spaces. So we might find them in sheds or closets or on rooftops. They've gone maybe to the top of a building and they can't walk any further, so they just stop at the top of that roof. And lastly, people, as I say, people living with dementia can be like time travelers, and they're traveling through the timeline of their lives. So they might believe that they're living as their teenage self, or they may believe that they reside in their childhood home, and they might be trying to get to that house that they grew up in. Or maybe they're trying to get to a past place of employment, a past occupation from where they used to work or spend many of their days. When someone living with dementia is missing, things like their past occupation, knowing their history, knowing their previous addresses or previous hobbies, those things could offer clues to their location. So that's a good place to start a search. So as we know, the person living with dementia might go missing without warning, and it could happen earlier than expected. So, when we're building our plan, we do want to take into consideration what we know about the person and the way the disease is affecting them currently. And depending on the person and the stage of their disease, The level of precaution that we take, it could vary. Every situation is different. And this helpful chart could help you to gauge and understand the level of risk for the person you support based on your current circumstances and the behaviors that you're noticing now. This chart was developed by Dr. Noelana Neubauer, and it was part of her thesis project. And she worked in collaboration with people living with dementia, their care partners, different healthcare professionals and social workers, first responders, community organizations, and Alzheimer's societies in her development of this risk assessment. So when we think of people who might be low risk, so that's that far left column on your screen there. So these are people that might be early in the disease process. They may have just some milder symptoms. They may have just received their diagnosis. At this time, they don't have any history of becoming lost. They maybe live with family and they're quite supported and supervised. And they're not expressing any interest of leaving or going outside the home without having someone with them. So if you look at this chart and you assess that the person that you support is probably in that low risk category, some of the precautions that you could consider include keeping a list of people to call for help, increasing your education and awareness, which you're participating in this session right now. So that's a good start or a good first step. And you might even consider registering the person with the Vulnerable Person Sector Registry or an identifier program. So we'll discuss those options a little later on. In the middle column here, this is some indicators that the person might be more of a medium risk. So perhaps they don't have a lot of people coming in and out of their home to check on them. If it's somebody that likes to exercise to alleviate stress, get their energy out, they might be at a greater risk of wandering. If it's somebody that regularly engages in outdoor activities, somebody that loves to get out for a walk or a hike, they might be at an elevated risk. If it's someone that's becoming frequently overwhelmed, worried, or anxious, we might notice they're at a heightened risk. Or if they are at a stage where in their mind, they're identifying themselves to be younger than they are or at an earlier age or stage in their lives, that's an increased risk. If the person talks about wanting to go or needing to go to work or wanting to go home, we can take that as an indicator of risk. Or if they're regularly stating their intent to leave home. So if as I was reading those, you were kind of checking boxes in your mind, there's a few things that we can do to help with those risk factors. So one of those things is learning some redirection strategies that work well for the person. So that could be, providing meaningful activities like chores or tasks at home to help with their energy levels, or even, keeping them comfortable by playing music that they enjoyed listening to growing up. Just things, providing activities in the home to kind of keep their brains active, engaged. That could be helpful. Installing signs in your house to help to assist with wayfinding so that, they're not accidentally leaving home while they're looking for something kind of like benign, like searching for the washroom or looking to go downstairs, making sure that we have different labels or wayfinding strategies within the home. Having the person with dementia, if they love to exercise outside, if they love to do that outdoor walks or hikes, having them always go with a partner or using locating technology. So we'll discuss some of those options a little later on. Making sure you have a list on hand of the places that the person with dementia used to live and used to work. That could be helpful places to start if you were needing to start a search, and increasing supervision for the person. So if we know that they're now in more of a medium risk category, we want to maybe consider having more people coming in to check on the person, or using a buddy system or a locating device, or signing the person up for adult day program to help with that energy release as well. And the last column on our screen here, these are the folks that are at high risk. So these are the people that are regularly going out for walks on their own. They might live alone, so they're not having that regular supervision. They may be in the later stages of dementia and experiencing symptoms more likely that we would see in those later stages. If you are out and about in the community, grocery shopping, at the farmer's market, whatever you're doing, whatever activities, and you're noticing that the person that you support is walking away from you more often in those scenarios, then that's a high risk factor. Or if you're noticing that the person has a pattern when it comes to preparing to go outside, so they're often looking for their shoes and their coat, they're often getting ready to go out or talking about going out. So if you know that the person you support, if those things that I just highlighted are resonating with you, there's a few things that you can do to help with the risk. So one of those things is making sure that car keys are out of sight. When you are going out running errands, doing what you do on the weekend, making sure that we're avoiding those really busy places that can be confusing or cause disorientation for the person. Increasing supervision, again, date programs, tracking devices, or having a care worker come into the home for someone that lives alone. You might consider installing either a lock or an alarm system on the exit doors or windows, just so that you are with an alarm so that you're aware when that door is open. But just to say this disclaimer, any locks on doors should only be used when a care partner is home for safety reasons like fire risk. You can consider locating technologies, and we'll talk about those a little later on. One suggestion here is installing door murals. So you could paint exit doors in a kind of camouflage way, or put a mirror on the exit door or a curtain in front of the exit door to help mask it so that it's not something that the person's continuing to return to. If while we're preparing for someone in this high risk stage, we want to make sure that we have descriptors, so something written down that has a current description of the person with dementia and maybe a photo as well to hand to first responders. And we'll talk about preparing for that a little later on. Placing identification information on the person or on the things that they're likely to wear or use. So having like name, address, contact information on the person's wallet or written in their jacket pocket, something that could help identify them. And if the person is high risk and you are very worried about their safety, this might be a time to assess their living situation, and especially if they're living alone, and just looking at options for what could be a safer choice. So when we think about this chart, as we know, dementia is a progressive disease. Things are always changing, always evolving. So we want to revisit this chart often and consider adjusting our plans as the person's situation evolves. So at this point, I'd like to introduce you to the Finding Your Way initiative. And this program helps people who are living with dementia and their care partners and their communities to recognize the risk of going missing, be prepared for incidents of going missing, and ensure that people who are living with dementia can live safely in the community. I'm just sharing the website there in the chat. So you might be wondering how the Finding Your Way program came to be, and it was developed as part of Ontario's Action Plan for Seniors. And the Senior Secretariat partnered with the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario to create and roll out this program. And it was created in response to the concern over the number of deaths and injuries that have occurred because of missing incidents. So they decided that some action needed to be taken, and Finding Your Way was the program that they created to raise awareness and aid in prevention in our communities. Finding Your Way helps people living with dementia, their caregivers, first responders, and communities manage the risk faced by people with memory loss who may go missing from their homes. And this program also provides some really valuable tools and resources, such as digital marketing campaigns, free online learning modules, and a resource guide that's called Living Safely with Dementia. And these things will all help Ontarians who are living with dementia to stay in their community of choice for longer and avoid some of those crisis situations that can lead to either hospitalization or an accelerated admission to long-term care. There's 4 main goals or objectives of the Finding Your Way program. It's designed to raise awareness about the risk of going missing for people that are living with dementia. Additionally, it was created to prevent missing incidents by promoting the creation of a safety plan. And it was designed to support the safe return of individuals who have gone missing. And finally, it enables all of the community, every member of the community, to support someone who's living with dementia as well as their care partners. So I'm just going to pop the resource guide link in the chat here. Although these things can all be found on the Finding Your Way website. It's taking me a little second here. Okay, so we're going to watch a video now where we'll meet a man called Keith Harvey, and he's a care partner, and his wife, Mary, lives with dementia. And Keith is going to discuss in this video a time when Mary unexpectedly left home and some of the precautions he's taken since that happened. This is a really great video. Just one moment.
When Mary and Keith Harvey met on the job more than 35 years ago, neither one ever expected they would be spending their twilight years together in this apartment. Both were successful accountants and enjoyed half the year in Florida and the rest of the time at their secluded cottage in Gravenhurst. It was when they were getting ready for one of their trips to Florida that Keith noticed something alarming.
We had to apply for our passports and she couldn't sign her name. We had seen little things, but that's when it really hit home that there was a major problem. And that's when we went for the diagnosis to find out exactly what it was and what we should do about it.
Mary was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. Some of the side effects of the disease are hallucinations, anger, paranoia, and the threatening potential of going missing. Keith sought advice from the Alzheimer's Society and researched ways to keep her safe. But one night at their cottage in Gravenhurst, Mary went for a long and dangerous walk.
Mary had laid down for a little nap in the back, which is where our bedroom is, and I had checked on her sort of every hour on the hour, and then I went about 5 o'clock and she was gone. The back door was wide open, and the cottage is in the middle of nowhere. It is bush, it is wolves, it is bears, it is you name it. and she was gone.
Luckily, Keith found Mary walking along the road. A short time later, she was found safe. After that incident, he knew he would have to take better precautions to protect her from going missing again. Keith put different types of locks on the doors, registered Mary with the Medic Alert Safely Home program through the Alzheimer's Society, installed special alarms to alert him if she gets up in the night, and made sure she carries some sort of identification on her with a number to call in case she goes missing again. Today, Mary spends 3 days a week at the Meadowvale Day program, and Keith participates in a local support group for caregivers.
There's a day program run through the Alzheimer's Society of Peel, and they are terrific people, very, very helpful. And then I also go to the support group every other week, and that is also very helpful. And you get to talk to the other caregivers and get ideas as to how one should handle the disease and what they're going through. And maybe I can help them with some of the things I've gone through.
Keith says if you are a caregiver, you have to be prepared and take whatever steps you need to protect them. His words of wisdom?
The person that, you're caregiving now is still the same loving person you decide to spend your life with. And that hasn't changed. It's just the disease has taken over a part of that person. And you're fighting the disease, not the person. And love and hold them anytime you can. We had a really good life. I was spoiled, and I liked that. Things change, and she put in, like the piggy bank. I use a piggy bank analogy. She put into the piggy bank for 30 years, so it's my turn to put a little bit back in. And that's one of the reasons I'm not ready to let her go.
The Harveys wanted to share their personal journey in hopes of helping others who may be experiencing the same thing. If you or someone you care about has dementia, don't hesitate. Call your local Alzheimer's Society today to find out how you can make a plan to keep them safe. 3 out of 5 people with dementia will go missing at some point, often without warning. They risk serious injury or death. It's never too early to plan. The Finding Your Way program from the Alzheimer's Society can help you. For people with dementia, every step counts.
Great. So in that video, Keith shared his story. He also shared that he took some different precautions after the incident where Mary left the cottage. He installed some locks on doors, some alarms to alert him if Mary got up in the night. He subscribed to Medical Alert, and he made sure that Mary always carried identification and his phone number. And just thinking to yourself, are these some of the things that you've already implemented, or any of these precautions, things that you've maybe considered? We'll go on now. We'll speak a little bit about how you might develop or create a safety plan. So one of the best ways to address the safety concerns associated with the risk of going missing is to identify some of the different strategies that are available for prevention. And on the screen, you can see some of the different elements of a safety plan. And we can think about these steps in the plan as pieces of a safety net that we can use to help mitigate the risks that come when a person's living with dementia. We're going to watch just another quick video that outlines some of these elements, and then we'll discuss them each in greater detail.
Six in 10 people with dementia become lost at some point. The balance between independence and safety is a delicate one. Locating technology can be useful for those living with dementia and for care partners by helping to create a safer environment or monitor from a distance. While being lost is distressing and has the potential to be dangerous, having a safety plan and a locating device can shorten search times and may reduce possible harm. The Finding Your Way website provides many resources to help people living with dementia and care partners decide if locating technology fits within their safety plan. On our website, you can find important information about features to consider when choosing a locating device, as well as possible limitations. Also provided are examples of available locating devices and their features. This may help to explore whether a device could increase safety for the person living with dementia. Although locating technology can be a helpful part of any safety plan, it is also important to complete an identification kit used by police if a person living with dementia does become lost. You can download an identification kit from our website, or find information about enrolling in a registry such as Medic Alert Safely Home or Vulnerable Persons Registry. For more information and to learn about other programs and services for those affected by dementia, please contact your local Alzheimer's Society. You can find your local society by using the search feature on the Alzheimer's Society website at www.alzheimer.ca.
All right, so when we think about putting our plan together and building that safety net, one of the preventative actions we could take is considering a locating device. But there are some ethical considerations when choosing to implement a locating or tracking device as part of that safety plan. Some people might think that a tracking device increases their personal freedom, their security, and their safety. But on the other hand, there's others that might feel like it's kind of an invasion of their privacy. So if we're using a tracking device for someone else, we can consider their lifelong values and wishes about personal freedom, privacy, independence, and safety. Or if we're supporting someone that may not need this locating device right away, it's important to include them in the conversation. Talk to them about the use of a tracking device in the future. Another important question when it comes to locating devices is, will the person that you support remember to use this device? Additionally, for someone that's experiencing memory loss, what can be done to help the person to remember to either wear or bring their tracking device with them? So thinking about other strategies that can work to complement the use of that locating device is also a good idea. So this could be things like having an ID card that lets others know that the person's living with dementia, or it could be a door alarm that notifies you or another care partner when the person's leaving home. So locating devices, there's a few different options. They can be beneficial because they can provide that increased independence for somebody. And they can also help the person to return home safely and quickly if they do become lost. There's a number of different types of tracking devices out on the market, although the use of those tracking devices doesn't decrease the need for things like supervision that would be appropriate to the person's symptoms and their circumstances. There's different types of devices that use different methods of tracking or locating an individual. Some might require the caregiver to either receive a call or to place a call to alert to start a search. Other devices may use a computer, telephone, a cell phone, or a call center operator to initiate that direct contact with emergency responders. So the first kind of type that we'll talk about is the GPS devices. And these could be things like a lanyard that you wear around your neck, or it can look more like a watch on your wrist, or it can be a block form that's just like a little box device that you pop in your pocket or in your purse. And this technology uses satellite signals to find the location of the person who's wearing the device. The advantage to GPS is that it's pretty effective outdoors. And it allows either the caregiver or the emergency responder to locate that transmitter in real time through an internet or smartphone application. So if you're trying to track the person, you pull up the app and it can show you in real time on a map where they are. The disadvantage to these GPS systems, I think about, the ones that are like a Garmin watch, that kind of thing, is that they need to be charged fairly frequently, like usually every day they need to be on the charger. The next type is radio frequency. This is not always a widely available type of locating device, but there are some regions in Ontario that are covered by Project Lifesaver. And so with the radio frequency devices, this technology is using radio signals to find the location of the person wearing the device. The advantage is that the range of this technology is larger than that of Bluetooth, so it allows tracking for up to 5 kilometers away. But the disadvantage is that it has a shorter range than GPS, but it can be a good option because it can be used both indoors and outdoors to find the person. Next, we have Bluetooth devices. So here, the device is using a Bluetooth signal that's received by another internet-connected device to locate a transmitter. The advantage to these types of devices, so this is things like an Apple AirTag or a Tile, is that they can last on the same battery for up to a year. The disadvantage is that the way that they work by bouncing a signal off of another device can make them not very effective in rural areas. So if you're in a city and you're sure that, that device is always going to be able to ping off another phone, then it could be a good option. But if you're living out in the country, it's likely not going to be the best choice. Then lastly, we have phone applications. Find My Friends, or I think they just shortened the title of that app to Find My now. And it's a free feature for people who are Apple users. And it allows you to easily locate friends or family by using your phone or your iPad. You can share your location with friends by choosing from your contacts or by entering their email address or phone numbers or using AirDrop. But it's only from Apple device to Apple device. So that's a limitation. Life 360 is available across different devices, and it's designed to help families and friends stay connected and coordinated. It can be used to see a loved one's location, receive notifications when they either arrive at or leave a designated spot, or get alerted if they need help, and even help find them if they become lost. Now, with Life 360, there is a fee for this service, and it varies depending on the package that you decide to go with. These are our 4 different types of technology that we can use. No device or system is foolproof, and a locating device can't guarantee that the person living with dementia isn't going to become lost or that they will definitely be found, but they may provide some peace of mind and can be an important part of the safety plan. So on the on the Finding Your Way Ontario.ca website, there is a fairly up-to-date list of different options when it comes to locating devices. Just going to see if I can share that website with you now. So hopefully you can see this. It says it's done by the University of Waterloo. You can see their symbol at the top there. And it also explains the different types of technologies available. And as you scroll down, you can see a big chart of different devices along with, how they work and their cost. So GPS devices here. There is a few different rows of these GPS devices. It shows a description of what the device is. So we can see, like a bunch of different types of GPS, so many options. So I will share the link to this site in the chat as well, because this is very helpful. And then it shows the Bluetooth devices. So we have our AirTag, Galaxy Smart Tag, Chipolo, and then smartphone applications, and then the radio frequency devices where it outlines Project Lifesaver. So this is a really helpful website if you're looking to make a purchase and you want to see a whole bunch of different options so that you can pick which would be the best for you in your circumstance. We'll just go back into our PowerPoint here. And let me see if I can share that website with you. Just taking me a little minute. There you go. So that website's now in the chat. Next, when we think about prevention and building our plan, there's some different programs that we can sign up for. One of those programs is a vulnerable persons registry, and that allows an improved police response to the vulnerable person who might require emergency assistance due to their condition. It speeds up locating and assisting vulnerable residents or frequent visitors to the region by making essential personal information readily available to responding officers. Not every area within the 4 counties that our Alzheimer's Society serves has a vulnerable persons registry. If you live in the city of Peterborough, then Peterborough Police, you have to be within the city limits. Peterborough Police does have a vulnerable persons registry, and you can visit their website and fill out an online form to add the person living with dementia to that list. Or you can also go to the Peterborough Police Station and fill it out in person as well. If you reside in the city of Kawartha Lakes Police Services catchment area, they also offer a vulnerable persons registry. So this is if you live within the city of Kawartha Lakes Police, not the OPP. So this is just the city of Kawartha Lakes Police catchment. They also have just recently updated their website, so you should be able to go online to register the person living with dementia. For those of you that live in an area whose police service provider is either the OPP, or if you live in Coburg or Port Hope, your best option is to sign up for the Medical Alert Safe and Found program. Medical Alert Safe and Found is a national wandering registry that protects more than 50,000 people living with dementia. And this is accomplished with the help of a blue colored ID, which is different than the traditional red emblem ID and represents dementia specifically. And so with wearing the bracelet, condition-specific health information of the person living with dementia is stored securely through the Medical Alert Health Information Database. So there are fees to register with Medical Alert Safe and Found, and so it can be a little costly, but it is if OPP or Coburg Police or Port Hope Police are your police stations, they use this program as a replacement for a vulnerable persons registry. So there's an activation fee of $75, and then you pay for the cost of the blue emblem bracelet, which is $80, and then you pay a subscription fee on top of that. So you can pay for either a 1-year plan or a 2-year plan. And that's kind of how the program works. So working in conjunction with Medical Alert Safe and Found is the first responder centered initiative, and that's called Medic Alert Connect Protect. And this allows 911 dispatchers to access the Medical Alert subscribers' personal health record directly from Medical Alert Safe and Found. So police officers will have a 24-hour direct access to the Medical Alert subscriber's recent photo and any personal information like their identity, physical description, any attributes, any wandering history, different behavior management strategies that could be helpful for the officer, the responding officer, or first responder, like things that trigger the person's anxiety or how you might help to calm the person, as well as information about the caregiver. And the third preventative program that I talked about earlier is Finding Your Way. And when you visit the findingyourwayontario.ca website, you can find a wealth of resources. And one of those is the Finding Your Way Identification Kit. And the Finding Your Way ID kit is available online. It's a fillable form online, or you can also, the Alzheimer's Society has some physical booklets available as well. But the online option is probably the most convenient because it's a fillable form, it's easier to keep up to date. So this is what it looks like, the Finding Your Way ID kit. And it's a valuable tool so that you can provide it to either police or emergency personnel in the event that the person living with dementia goes missing. So what can happen if you can imagine your state of mind if you find that the person living with dementia is missing? Of course, you're going to be feeling stressed, panicked, and in that moment, when you're in those heightened emotions, it's very easy to forget to provide important information for the first responder. So if you fill this out ahead of time, this identification form, it provides space for places to write down any relevant health information or personal history, and you can combine this form with a current photo of the person as well. So the Finding Your Way ID kit is a 5-page document with 5 different parts for the care partner to complete. So the first part is just basic information like name, date of birth. The second part is all about the person's appearance and their physical description. The third part is about the person's health and wellness. So for example, it'll ask, does the person wear hearing aids? Do they have glasses? Do they have mobility issues? Do they drink? Do they smoke? Do they have allergies or chronic conditions? What medications do they take? And doctor's information. In the fourth section, it's all about the person's personality and their lifestyle, like habits, spiritual and cultural needs, the person's favorite things, any triggers that should be noted, and the best way to communicate with the person, along with tips for helping the person to calm down. And lastly, the last section is all about life history. So this is where you're going to write down any previous addresses, previous employment, and any other incidents where the person living with dementia has gone missing in the past, if they have, and where they were found. The Finding Your Way identification kit, once it's completed, it should be kept up to date. So we're going back to it, we're updating it, refreshing it as things change. And we're keeping it in a central location in our home. So for example, it's either like on the magneted to the refrigerator door or on the front hall table. This is where we're keeping all this information right at hand so that when you are in the heat of the moment and you can't think straight to provide this information to first responders, you just have to hand it to them. I'm just going to go ahead and pop links to the police vulnerable registries, and a link to the vulnerable persons, or sorry, a link to the Finding Your Way ID kit into the chat here. Okay, so those are there for you now. Okay, so Finding Your Way also has an incident response checklist for you to follow in the event that you discover that the person living with dementia is missing. So this is kind of the step-by-step. I've discovered that the person's missing. I don't know where they are. What do I do first? So as I say, in the heat of the moment, you may not be thinking straight. It might be difficult to remember all the things that you need to do to start the process to bring the person home safely. So step one, you discover the person's missing, is to call 911. The faster that we can get emergency responders involved, the better. And we've talked to police officers before, and they say that often when somebody's gone missing, care providers are reluctant to call the police because they're worried that, you know what, I'm going to find him, the person soon. I'm going to find them, easily, and I will have wasted the police officer's time if I call. But the police always, always encourage you to call no matter what. They're much happier to send out officers and find the person quick and easily, and have them home safe than to not know that they're missing. And then that can make, when there's a delay to the start of the search, that can make that search that much more difficult. So we're calling 911, we're letting the police know immediately that the person is living with dementia. We want to be able to think about the last time we saw them. We're going to give the police the Finding Your Way ID kit with that recent photo. Talk about any medications the person might be taking, talk about any places that the person is likely to go. And if the person is registered with Medical Alert or has a locating device on them, we're going to share that with the police as well. Next, we're mobilizing support. So we want to make sure that there's always one person that stays home just in case the person living with dementia returns on their own. We're going to alert our neighbors, our friends, and our family that the person's missing. If the person living with dementia still drives, we're giving the police any vehicle information. And we can talk to the police about informing credit card companies as well, because tracking the use of a credit card might help in locating the person. And then we're going to conduct our own quick search of the house. So we're going to, make sure that we're checking thoroughly bedrooms, including closets and under the bed. We're checking the bathroom. We're checking the basement, especially any hidden spaces that would be easy for a person to get into. And we're checking the garage if this is attached to the house or near the house. And it says, look outside your home, but only do this if you have an enclosed yard. If you live rurally, you're not going to look on your property, especially if you have some acreage there. You could put yourself at risk. You could endanger yourself if you're looking around big, expansive property in a rural area. And you could also complicate the search for police. We're going to avoid that. Okay, so now you've done everything you were supposed to do as you were responding to the incident, and now the person has been found. So we want to think about the steps for having a successful reunification with the person. The person with dementia may be anxious, they may be feeling confused when they're found. So we want to follow the strategies on the post-incident response checklist that could help calm the person down and encourage them to return home. So the first check box here is to be prepared. So if the person living with dementia went missing at a time where the weather wasn't great, you might want to prepare a change of clothing so that they have some dry socks and shoes and a dry jacket to put on, whatever is appropriate to the weather condition. We're going to approach calmly in a casual manner, make sure that the person can see you coming. And if the person doesn't immediately want to come home, which they may not, they may be feeling emotional themselves, just walking a short distance with them, speaking in a calm, normal tone of voice can help. Provide reassurance. So reassure the person about where they are, why they're there. Let them know that you've been thinking about them, you've been worried about them, and you're happy to see them. You can talk to them about familiar things because that might trigger a response to return home. So even, inviting the person for a cup of tea or coffee at home, or reminding them that we have to get home because it's time to feed the dog, that might be enough to prompt the person to come home with you. And, the person may still be determined to reach a particular destination. This happens. So if possible, you can consider, if it's possible, you consider taking them to that destination, or you can talk about, planning a trip at a later date. Number 4 is keeping your perspective. This experience of having someone go missing, it is a stressful experience, but we want to remember that this behavior, the reason this happened, is part of the dementia and that no one is to blame. And once the person is safely home, it's common to want to do everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So we want to put our focus on attention and prevention. Keep in mind that we shouldn't be using restraints, as they can have some serious negative effects on the person living with dementia, and they haven't been shown to reduce incidents of going missing. And lastly, ask for help. So you can ask for information and support from the Alzheimer's Society. The Alzheimer's Society is here for you. And after emergency situation, sometimes that causes care partners to really assess the person living with dementia's living situation. So your family support counselor at the Alzheimer's Society can be helpful in talking through these decisions with you and providing information. On the screen, you can see a list of the resources we talked about today. I've provided links in the chat, but you can also find them all on the Finding Your Way Ontario website, findingyourwayontario.ca. We've got one final quick video to watch here that touches on each of the ideas for staying safe that are in the Living Safely with Dementia resource guide that I shared closer to the top of the presentation.
Maps help us find things. This map helps us find ways for everyone to live well in the community. It shows us how to support the growing number of people living with dementia and their caregivers. For those with dementia, living well starts with a safe home. It's great if someone is nearby to help. For safety, remember to remove loose rugs. Have adequate lighting. Use grab bars in the bathroom and handrails on staircases. Living safely with dementia means making healthy choices, like staying active, eating healthy foods, having regular checkups, sight and hearing tests, and of course, following medical advice. People with dementia are at risk of getting lost. To help stay oriented when moving around the community, they can carry locating technology, use a Medic Alert Safely Home bracelet, carry identification, and tell someone where they're going. When traveling, those with dementia should consider the weather, the walkways, and other transportation options, like the bus. Living a safe and full life with dementia means staying social. Meet friends for a coffee or a meal and get to know your neighbors. Ask for help from family and friends and connect with your local Alzheimer's Society for support. For more information on how to live safely with dementia, visit findingyourwayontario.ca or call 211.
Sure what happened there, but all right. No. Okay. Well, I'm going to, we've reached the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. I know that was a lot of information I threw at you and quite a long presentation. So at this time, I'm going to stop the recording and we can open up the floor to some questions here.